Hey guys, welcome back to Infinite Sky YouTube channel. And Aeroflot 3352 was heading towards the runway for landing in rain and low visibility. The captain asked permission from ATC. ATC gave landing clearance, but both pilots were unaware of the impending danger. Death was waiting for the flight standing on the runway, and then to understand this whole story, we have to know about one person. 10th October 1984, a man named Borodikno used to work as a ground controller in Omsk Airport. He was 23 years old. He was married and he also had a child. Often his duty fell at night, due to which he had to face a lot of difficulties because he also had to take care of children at home, and children often did not sleep at night. On October 10th, ground controller Borodikno could not sleep because of his child, and he had duty at 3 in the night, so he could not sleep that night. He left for duty without sleeping. Because of this one mistake, his whole life was going to be hell. We will continue to this story later. The next morning, that is on 11th October 1984, a plane of Tu-154 model was preparing to take off from Krasnodar International Airport. This plane had 3 powerful engines, which first flew in 1972. Due to the presence of 3 engines, it could fly long distances. There were 170 passengers on board the plane, out of which 16 were children. Apart from these passengers, there were 9 crew members. Captain Boris Petrovich was 49 years old. He was a very experienced pilot. He had experience of 16,365 flight hours. The first officer was Anatoly. He was 47 years old and had 2,748 hours of experience. Apart from these two, there were 2 more crew members in the cockpit, Vitaly Pronozin and a navigator Yuri Blazhin. Both of them were flight engineers. Here, you may find it a bit strange to hear the names of all these because these are all Russian names. Pronunciation is slightly different in English and Russian, so you should handle it accordingly. Anyway, this plane had to land at Omsk Airport from Krasnodar International Airport, USSR. After this plane had to take off again from here and had to go Novosibirsk Tolmakevo Airport, USSR. Finally, this plane took off. Everything was going well in the plane. It was night time. The weather was a bit bad, but even in this weather, planes could fly easily. Slowly, this plane started moving towards Omsk Airport. Friends, this was the same airport where ground controller Borodikno was performing his duty. We discussed about this at the beginning of the story itself. This airport has a single runway. Therefore, whenever there is runway maintenance here, all flights are cancelled. October 11, 1984. It was about to be 5 in the morning. The sun had not risen yet. The visibility was low. On top of that, due to rain, the visibility reduced further. Aeroflot Flight 3352 informed ATC that we are coming for landing. But ATC was a little worried. The problem was that no plane had landed on the runway for the last several hours, and it was also raining for several hours. So they were afraid that there might be water contamination on the runway. Due to continuous accumulation of water on the runway becomes very slippery. In such a situation, planes may face problems in applying brakes. So he contacted ground controller Borodikno and told him that a plane was about to land. So you quickly dry the runway. This was the same ground crew that we discussed at the beginning of the video. He could not sleep because of his small child. On top of that, he had to come to duty at midnight. Somehow he came to duty, but sleep was troubling him. So he told his workers to go and dry the runway, and he himself went to sleep. As a ground controller, he had to ensure that the safety rules of whatever work was going on. As a ground controller, he had to ensure that the safety rules for whatever work was going on the runway were being followed properly. How long is this work going to continue? They had to continuously inform the ATC that our work is still going on, and hence no other plane should be given permission to land. Now, because the ground controller were asleep, these safety rules were not followed. Apart from this, he should have done one important thing before sleeping. He should have switched on the runway occupied warning light so that it could be seen from a distance that work was going on the runway. But he fell asleep without turning on this switch. This means that in low visibility, even the ATC could not see whether any work was going on the runway or not. Apart from this, if any plane came towards the runway for landing, then even the pilot would not know that any work was going on the runway. Due to a mistake by the controller, a huge blunder had occurred on the runway. As per the order, their workers went to the runway with big vehicles like UAG, Krag, Ural trucks, which weighed around 16 to 20 tons. The maintenance workers got busy with their work, but they also made a big mistake. Whenever such vehicles are on the runway, flashing lights are kept on top of the vehicle so that everything can be seen from a distance. But the problem with these lights is that they are very bright, and due to regular flashing, they have a huge impact on the eyes. So the maintenance workers kept the lights on until the work began. The flashlight was switched off after the work was over, although this was against the safety rules. But workers would often do this because the runway occupied lights were already turned on. Others would know that the work was going on there. It did not matter much whether the flashing lights of the vehicles were on or off. Now, in Omsk Airport, the runway occupied warning lights was off, and the flashing lights of the vehicle were also off. But the runway lights were still kept on, whereas it should be off. A runway crew noticed the runway lights. He already knew that the work was going on the runway, therefore the runway lights should have been off. But why is it on? He also did not see any flashing lights in the vehicle, nor was the runway occupied warning light is on. He felt very strange seeing all this. He immediately called the ground controller, but because he was sleeping, he did not receive the call. The call was made 3 times back to back, but still the ground controller did not wake up, so he ignored it. He thought that the work of drying the runway would have been completed. Maybe the runway lights are being tested. That's why all the runway lights are on. Overall, so many mistakes were enough to make a plane crash. Almost an hour passed while doing all this. Meanwhile, Aeroflot Flight 3352 entered the airport area. The captain asked ATC for landing permission. ATC knew that the work was going on to dry the runway. He looked outside once. Due to the low visibility, he was not able to see the runway clearly. But since no warning light was lit on the runway, they thought that maybe the work would have been completed. So ATC gave landing permission. Now the countdown to death had begun. The plane started moving towards the runway. The pilot noticed that there was something on the runway, but it was not visible properly. He again told ATC that maybe something was present on the runway. ATC again looked towards the runway. Again they did not see any vehicles nor the lights of the vehicles. To avoid any confusion, ATC called the ground controller, but he was still sleeping. They did not receive ATC's call either. Now ATC were also confused about what to do. The Aeroflot was coming for landing. No vehicles were visible on the runway. It means they assumed that the runway could be empty. They called the pilot again and said something in a sentence at the end of which word, Bodna, was said. Let us tell you that whatever was going on between these people was in Slovenian language. ATC said Bodna at the end of a line. When the pilot heard the line said by ATC, at the end of which something like the word Bodna was heard. Here the ATC's voice was inaudible, making it difficult to hear. So the pilot heard the word Bodna as Subodna. It means free. Here the pilot felt that the runway was free. There were no obstacles of any kind. We could land without any problem. Now the plane slowly touched down on the runway following its glide slope. At this time, the speed of the plane was almost 240 km per hour. As soon as the plane touched down, that black shadow became clearly visible to the pilots. In a few moments, everyone in the cockpit started seeing death in their eyes. Within a few moments, the plane was about to collide with the vehicles. The pilot immediately tried to turn the brakes, but the plane was at the speed of 240 km per hour. The pilot tried to turn the plane, but the heavy plane could not turn so quickly. The plane kept moving forward, colliding with all the vehicles one after the other. These trucks were filled with almost 7 tons of fuel. There was also a large amount of fuel present in the plane's tank. The result was a massive fire on the runway. All the passengers were caught in the fire. During this time, a miracle happened. The cockpit of the plane broke and detached, and this broken cockpit rubbed on the ground and went away from the fire area. Perhaps this is the reason, friends, that the lives of all 4 flight crew members in the cockpit were saved. The flight crew immediately exited the shattered cockpit and rushed to save the lives of the passengers. But the fire was so fierce that they could take out only 1 passenger alive. 174 died. Only 4 crew members and 1 passenger survived. Apart from this, 4 maintenance workers died on the ground. The ground controller woke up only after such a big accident. The investigation revealed that multiple mistakes and multiple negligence were committed one after the other. ATC gave landing permission without confirmation. The ground controller fell asleep. The runway occupied warning lights were off. The flashing lights of the workers' vehicle didn't work. Even the workers took longer to work. The ground controller kept sleeping, whereas the responsibility of all the safety was on him. If even one safety rule had been followed in this accident, perhaps so many people would not have lost their lives. After investigation, legal action was also taken against these people. The ground controller was sentenced to 15 years in prison, but while serving his sentence, he committed suicide in jail. The flight operation manager was sentenced to 15 years, approach controller to 13 years, and airport maintenance to 12 years. No technical failure was found in the plane. The pilot did his job well. Due to poor visibility, he could not see the runway properly. The pilots did not get enough time to avoid the collision. The captain continued flying the plane even after this accident until he retired. He lived for many more years and died on 14th November 2016 due to old age. After the accident, all 4 crew members used to wish each other happy birthday on 11th October because on this day, he got a new life and he used to celebrate it every year. So this was the story of Aeroflot Flight 3352. If you like the video, then like it. If you don't like it, then dislike it. And in both cases, subscribe to this channel because there's a lot to learn in this channel. So I will meet you in the next video. Till then, keep watching and keep learning.